how they get.
So we're live. Welcome to another edition of Between Two Services, our virtual conversation here at St. John's that takes place in between our two services, 8 o'clock and 10:30. I am joined this morning with some wonderful guests, and kudos to Debbie Gill. She brought coffee for everybody. Thank you. Also joined by Katherine Harper, and we are here. We're going to have a wonderful conversation. I want to point out that this week is going to be a crazy week for us with our virtual ministry. We are hoping to have our long-awaited system installed, and this room is going to start coming together a little bit more than it is right now. So stay tuned for some upgrades and some probable technical difficulties. There always is with new equipment, but we'll get through. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Good morning.
So, what should we talk about this morning? Thinking about it's Advent. We have a baptism this morning. There's a new variant of COVID that's out there that's raising alarms. There's a lot for us to think about as leaders of the church.
And we made it through a holiday.
Did we survive the holiday?
It was quite pleasant.
Oh,
I
good.
must say. I was nervous and anxious about the whole thing, and it turned out lovely. So, what about you, Katherine?
My holiday was pretty quiet in little bits and pieces here and there. It was interesting. It was kind of basically getting back to normal on some Thanksgiving celebrations, and others were very quiet. So I enjoyed that. I've enjoyed actually kind of dialing back some of that stuff and having time that's peaceful to share with people.
Yeah.
Quietly. I've missed the loud chatter too, being in the house where the sounds are just vibrating off the walls. I've missed that too, but I've really enjoyed having the quiet time and being, even though it was forced, it was still a good time. So
you had a very different Thanksgiving as well. How did yours end up?
Mine was good. Yeah. We were together with Mom and Bia and Sora, and then I did a burial on Friday, which went very well, and kind of got to minister with a family, and it was pretty much a kind of a good time. I also miss it felt weird having only 4 people around the table. I mean, growing up with a big family, you're used to 24. And so you miss some of that hustle and bustle, but at the same time, it is a lot easier, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it is a lot easier. So, well, that's great. One of the questions I always want to ask the people who come on this show is, one of the reasons why we do this is so that if people tune into our live stream or they watch this recorded later, and then they come to church, and we've had a number of people do this. Sometimes it's sort of like, oh, I've seen you on my screen, right? And it's sort of like, okay, how do we take that awkwardness away? So if someone were to come up and be like, Katherine, I've seen you on Between Two Services, how would you respond?
Glad that you came to church to see me live and introduce myself again and ask their name as well. Welcome them.
So it wouldn't be weird?
Not anymore, because it's funny, you see people on Facebook and other places. I've gotten used to people I haven't seen from high school, see them on Facebook and then run into them years later. And it's like, oh yeah, we can pick up where we left off. And here's a new friend that I met on Facebook. So I think it's kind of just the way things are now, that you meet people in different ways, not the same ways that you used to.
Well, really, and I think, it speaks to, you can actually have authentic relationships that begin online.
Absolutely.
And friendships that start online, and you can get introduced to a community by being online. So we're just doing this to introduce people to our community. So Debbie, someone steps up and says, hey, you're ushering one day, and they're like, I've watched your services online.
I would probably look at them and say, oh my God, did I say anything stupid?
Oh, okay.
And then I would be thrilled that they recognized me and same thing, introduce myself, learn more about them, and welcome them to our church. But my first thought would be,
Yeah.
I would be anxious.
It is a little weird that we're all reality TV stars.
Yeah.
I mean,
Who would have thought?
who
My
would've
adult
thought?
children would be like super impressed by this, I'm sure.
So like every day I
Or
wake up,
mortified.
I was gonna say, mine was a little mortified this morning that this is where I was coming.
well,
Is he watching?
I don't know.
at the moment, nobody's watching.
Okay.
So that we know.
Part of it is that we're streaming over YouTube because this is really a test run. So we'll post this on Facebook later and get more views. But it's sort of like people have asked me, "Is anyone watching?" I'm like, well, it's still a work in progress. It's okay if it's a small viewership. Like
So
I'd be a
how many
little
viewers have we had?
overwhelmed if we had like 1,000 people watching this right now. Like I would just freeze.
Have we had many viewers the last couple weeks?
We have. Usually they watch it later.
Yeah.
So there's somewhere around 50.
Which is
So-
actually kind of nice. That's what I did.
Yes.
When I had a free moment, I stepped aside and
Yeah. But it's just a reminder. We want to remind you, if you're watching this, subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you log in on Sunday mornings, you can ask questions, send comments, make jokes about the priest. It's all, it all pops up here. So open invitation. Well, I know one of the things that I've had a lot of conversation with people about that's very much on all of our minds is, well, what do we do about youth ministry? I think this was a challenge before the pandemic. It's been a challenge during the pandemic for various reasons, including the fact that a great number of our kids just are only now getting to have shots. And so then the question is, okay, so where do we go from here? We're headed into a new year. What does youth ministry in 2022 need to look like? And I thought we could kind of start there with some conversation.
Well, I can say that growing up in a small congregation, it really meant a lot to me to have people who weren't my parents show concern for me, for my spiritual life, for how I was doing, ask questions of me. And I truly made it feel like that it was a church family. It was
Right.
really my church family. And that really was a big boost for me spiritually, to know that it wasn't just my parents, that it was other people. And I think sometimes as kids, you listen to people who aren't your parents more sincerely anyway, just because they're your parents, so you don't listen all the time. So it really meant a lot to me to have that family, that background, that other perspective on some issues as well. So
Right.
that was really important to me. So I wanted that for my kids, and I want it for the other kids in the church as well.
I did not grow up with any of that.
None of that.
None. So that is what I love about St. John's for Avery from our congregation. But definitely what we're missing is kids.
Yeah.
I would love for Avery to have some kids that she could learn with, worship with, do more activities with, in and outside of the church.
Yeah.
So that's been missing for a long time, pre-COVID. We did, I think during the pandemic though, Avery loved painting the rocks. We've done some great things trying to engage kids, but we're not going to get more kids that way. And also right now, I don't know if we're ready for her to really be in a big group of kids because COVID's not over.
Right.
And we're being very picky and choosy in choosing what we're doing and what we're not.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I did think, thinking about the rocks or the painted rocks or those activities, what do you guys think about doing something like if we're doing a delivery, an at-home delivery, sending an extra one to give to a friend?
That's a good idea.
That's a good idea. You want to help us pack them for Christmas next Sunday?
Sure. Yeah, no, that would be great.
Yes.
But, in that way you're inviting someone
To invite
else.
someone.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
good
if it's a
idea.
neighbor or a friend, somebody that you feel comfortable being around, you guys could do the activity together or whatever.
And the Christmas activity is Christmas cards. to take to the nursing homes and places like that. The Valentine's cards were fabulous.
Huge
They
hit.
received.
Yeah.
They just loved that. I mean, the nursing home loved it. They had enough to give, some people too that might not have gotten anything,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
they really enjoy it. And they were all different, of course. And so that's
Remembering
Made with love.
with the
Really,
least of
yeah.
these, literally, because
yes.
if anyone suffered through the pandemic, it's really the people in these long-term care facilities where they're getting COVID, but they're also like locked in.
Right.
So
Yeah. I had my mom over the weekend, and she has gone way downhill.
yeah, and that's hard to see.
Oh, it is. It is. It is. So yeah, that's. I would love to help.
Awesome.
And what do you guys think about that?
I think that's a great idea. And we could include a sheet about the different worship opportunities that we have and what all is going on. Maybe even some copies of Eagle Wings. I don't know.
Yeah,
Just some sort of information to give people.
I think that's one of your real spiritual gifts is you have this ability to invite people and to think about people and say, hey, come to my church and be part of it.
It's
I know that
totally
there's-
for selfish reasons.
Okay, but the Lord blesses our selfishness sometimes. So it's totally for selfishness. We are very honest here between two services. Well, I think it's part of the thing is figuring out exactly what we want our youth to learn. And this always weighs heavily on my mind because not here, but I remember in a previous congregation teaching confirmation, and you're new to the congregation, you're new to the kids, and we had all these kids show up, and it was lovely, but you start assessing like where are they in their faith formation, and then all of a sudden one of the kids just raises his hand and says, you're talking about Easter and about the resurrection, and he's just like, well, how does the Easter bunny fit into this? And it's not like it's not a glib question, it's not a jokey question or sarcastic question. It was an authentic question. Like, this was sincere. The only thing he really knew about Easter was that the Easter bunny came and bring him chocolates. And I think increasingly that's a challenge that we all face, is that we're kind of if we're not teaching our story and really getting into the nitty-gritty and covering the basics and really reinforcing this, then people really aren't learning. And one of the things that I keep seeing whenever we have services that invite a lot of people from the community is that there's kind of like a stratification by age, where it's like the older people at weddings and funerals and big church services, they know what church is, they know how to function, and then there's kind of like a middle tier that's has some clue of what's going on, and then you end up looking out and thinking, well, everyone under 30 is just completely lost. Like, this just doesn't seem relevant, or it doesn't connect to them. And the things that we talk about really are, absent any context or formation, very strange. Eat my blood, eat my flesh, drink my blood. I mean, that's a high initial hurdle to get over, right?
Yes.
As much as I value and cherish the Eucharist, absent context and faith formation, it's weird.
Yes. It's a very startling sentence to hear when you come for the first time, if you don't have the background, like you said.
And so then sort of like, what do our kids need to absolutely learn so that they feel comfortable in their own faith, and that they also feel comfortable inviting others into this and being able to answer questions about it? This is a big, I think, challenge going forward, because I agree. I mean, I want BIA to definitely have a strong children and youth program here. I do think we've got more kids than we know. It's just hard to get everyone together at the same time and sustain a program. That's been a challenge even before COVID. And so now maybe this is an opportunity for us to imagine what that could look like in a new way.
Mhm. I think that's important for us to find that way, to find an age appropriate way for different ages as kids grow
Mhm.
and make their choices to be confirmed, to join the church, and
Yeah.
all those steps that we have that are specific to our church, but that are important for your faith growth as you grow.
Absolutely.
Can be part of those stories.
And to feel safe and comfortable.
Mhm. And that they can ask questions.
Right.
And that they
Absolutely.
have people to ask questions of besides, just their parents if they want to ask a Sunday school teacher, or Christian formation teacher, someone else at church.
Well, I think that that's one of the beautiful things about St. John's that I really hope that we're able to build on is that this is a community where people have very deep faith, but it's also it's not rigid, right? It's that this isn't a place where if you come and you say, I have all these questions, someone's going to sit you down and like drill the answers into you, right? Like I think most of us show up in church and have questions and have doubts. And then it's sort of like by being in community and having these common traditions, this common liturgy, we sustain ourselves through those periods of doubt. And through learning and study, through EFM, through devotions like Advent, we both practice our faith and then deepen our faith. And that's a beautiful part of the Episcopal Church. Yeah.
And I think like you're talking about when people come together at those challenging times in their lives, burials, or even, celebration times, and they want to be part of something that is bigger and understand more. And so they do come to the church oftentimes for answers, and we should be able to help them find their own answers and see how their faith fits into their own lives.
Well, yeah.
But it can't be rigid. It
No.
can't. It starts with fellowship. It starts with meeting somebody where they are.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's the great thing. Like, if we expect people to encounter God in worship, then we have to also expect that people are going to react to that encounter in various ways. And actually, one common way, it's not just Jonah who like gets a call from God and is like, "Hey, I'm going to head to the opposite direction, right? I'm gonna like just, you want me to go here, I'm gonna head as far over there as I possibly can." I mean, that's a common reaction. And I think sometimes we think, well, people come to church and it just didn't really, maybe we weren't on that day, maybe the sermon wasn't good, maybe the music could have been better, maybe we could have touched them a little bit better. And I think, well, yeah, but I mean, the alternative could also be true, that they got moved and connected with God, and then we're like, this is freaking me out.
I need to think about this for a while.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, all of which I think complicates our form of evangelism because we aren't a hard sell kind of people. And we are in a cultural context right now where I think most churches are engaged in the hard sell, right? If you get through the door, they want you to know that you're a sinner, you're wrong, they're right, they have the answers, they can fix you. And I'm just, one of the glorious things about a parish like St. John's is like we have, oh God, I'm going to say this online. We have so many delightful, eccentric people around here that it's sort of like we have no business pretending we can fix anybody, right? Like, love everybody, yes.
Present company exception,
Include everybody,
That's why I love it here.
yes.
Right.
Fix anybody, no.
No.
So,
We need you to join in our craziness.
yeah, join in our craziness. Come wander with us through this thing called faith.
Yes. You are welcome and you are loved, and jump in.
Yeah.
God loves you. We love you. Come on.
Well, Well, I think it's going to be so important as we kind of come back. And I hope that I mean, like, here we are, we're sitting in a tiny, unventilated room in the middle of a pandemic without masks. Oh, well, it's good. But, as we think about the Omicron variant, there is sort of a Groundhog Day-esque thing to this pandemic. It's sort of like, oh, God, when will this ever end? But it will end eventually. And I think at that point, like, making sure that we figure out, okay, how do we go back to doing brunch? Or if not brunch, something else where people come together and can talk and have fellowship. How can we do fun things for our kids? One of the ideas that Rachel and Patrick suggested is that we actually do a show like this with kids, because so many of our young people are interested in having their own YouTube channel, right? We could just have like a kids show, or other creative things. But we've been really creative and adaptive through all of this. So like, how do we apply that creativity and that adaptability going forward? It's just going to be essential so that we are a loving community.
Mm-hmm. And I think we'll have to try things, and some things won't work, and some things will be a big hit, and we'll just have to keep trying. And as the pandemic changes and evolves, we'll have to change and evolve.
We're just flowing
as well, and know that that's just how it's going to be for the foreseeable future, probably. That we just have to be adaptable.
All right. Well, we are right at the 22-minute mark. All right. Any final thoughts before we log off here?
I just want to say today's the first Sunday in Advent, and we're having the Advent Wreath making workshop after church in Hosea Hall, or you can text me or call me and I'll send you a Zoom link so you can follow along. All the supplies are here. I can drop them off at your house this afternoon. The Advent Wreath is a way to observe the season of Advent, which is the 4 Sundays before Christmas, a time to slow down and just remind ourselves of the real meaning of Christmas.
Amen. Thank you for doing that too. I know a lot of people really love them.
It's great. Yeah.
I love them. So,
which I think is one of the other blessings that we've, I thought the house blessings at Epiphany last year were so smart as a way to teach the traditions of our church, even under very difficult circumstances. And just sort of, this is a way to live out the faith at home and mark time. And yeah. All right. Well, thanks. We hope that you will tune in next week to another exciting edition of Between Two Services. Have a good Sunday.